On, Drew.
All right.
All right, we're live.
All right. Welcome back to Closed Casket Podcast. We are joined here tonight with Stevan Mena. He is the director of Malevolence, Bereavement, and an awesome movie called Brutal Massacre. Welcome to the show, Stevan.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So, Brutal Massacre. How true is that movie to the way you made movies over the years? Because I mean, it's almost spot on with any set you could ever be on. It's almost like a filmmaking bible. So I want to start off with that, and tell us a little bit how you got your idea to make Brutal Massacre and some of the challenges working with the long list of hot horror icons that are in the movie.
Well, sadly, that movie is all too true. In fact, that movie is the result of me going through making the film Malevolence and then just kind of documenting, because that was my first movie. So like every night I was kind of document all the insane shit that was happening because I just couldn't believe it. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing, what I was experiencing. And I was like if this is what filmmaking is, like I never want to do this again. It was like the absolute worst experience of my life. And I met the most horrible people I've ever met in my life. And I was like, I just got to document all this. And then when it was done, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to turn this into a script. It was just like this cathartic thing. I was just like, it's just so crazy. No one would ever believe it. Right. So I wrote it into a script. And as I'm writing it, I'm like saying to myself, this shit's really funny. Like everything that happened is fucking hilarious. This would actually make a good documentary. And I'm a huge fan of Spinal Tap. So I kind of had that idea in the back of my head, like this could be like a Spinal Tap, but for filmmaking. So I kind of, wrote it with that, sort of, tongue-in-cheek type of comedy, and I never really expected to make that movie at all. Like it was just something that I did, and then I threw it in my closet. And then I was making a film. It was like around 2005, and I was making this ghost picture. It's supposed to be my second movie, and the location where we were going to shoot, actually, this was in Pennsylvania. In fact, Drew, if you're familiar with the Lehigh Valley area at all, where they have a casino now.
Yeah.
So that casino was originally a steel plant, Bethlehem Steel, and we got permission a year in advance to shoot there. And about a week, we were already on location. The actors were there. We were a week away from shooting. We were just doing rehearsals. And we were told that we couldn't step foot on the property anymore because it was sold to the casino. So, which was insane. And we were like, okay, well, that's it. The movie's canceled. And then they did an article in the newspaper, and a bunch of people came forward offering locations to kind of save us, which it did. But that movie was supposed to look very different. But yeah, I mean, it was really just born out of my experience making Malevolence, trying to, just find some funny in that horrible experience. And I think, what resonates with people who watch that movie, if you've ever been on a movie set that didn't quite go right, which is 99% of them, then you can, kind of empathize with it. But I don't think too many people know that everything in that movie, everything is based on a true event. Like there's nothing made up. Even the shit where he gets shot or pretend shot at the end, even that almost happened to me. I mean, not in that same way, but there was this crazed fan who was stalking me at a film festival, and one of my friends had to literally step in between us. It was just all right, that's going in the movie. So
Sick.
That's amazing. I mean, it's so surprising. I work as a DP, and I try to help out on indie projects all the time. It's amazing how many people actually know about Brutal Massacre. I mean, I would say almost everybody in the film industry have seen that movie at some point, and they hold it up there, and I hold it up there as one of the best comedies. I mean, it's like a mixture of The Office and your favorite horror movie, and Gunnar Hansen in it, he's fantastic. It's probably his best role. Fuck Leatherface. Him playing
fucking bold. That was bold, dude.
He,
Gunnar was the coolest fucking person I ever met. They always say don't meet your heroes. that was the opposite for me. He actually he came down to my premiere of Malevolence. He actually came to Worcester, Massachusetts. Don't even ask me how we ended up premiering in Worcester, but had something to do with the distributor at the time. But somehow a copy of the film got into his hands through somebody, and he loved it so much that he came down from Maine, drove down from Maine to Worcester to meet me and be at the premiere. And I was just like, dude, I'm like your biggest fan. Like I'm that movie is the reason I got into making movies. So I was completely starstruck. But then when I started talking to him, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a really decent human being. He's a cool guy. And we ended up talking for hours. And I said, if I ever make a movie, another film after this one, if this one's successful, you got to be in it. And he's like, all right, well, if it's a hit, then, call me. And so, sure enough, Malevolence was a big hit. And I got to have him in my film. And he came in and he was, we were rehearsing lines, and he had this really funny affectation on his voice. He wanted to sound like, kind of like Southern drawl. And I was like, Gunnar, just be yourself, man. Like, you're cool as is. You don't have to do anything, to add on to that. And he actually really appreciated that I just wanted him for him, and it was the first time he got to play like himself. I mean, that is Gunnar. Like, if you ever met him, he's funny. He's super smart. He's totally the guy you want to go out and have a beer with, right? So it was a lot of fun doing that with him. And when he passed, his girlfriend/wife said to me that right before he died, he had mentioned that his proudest achievement was Brutal Massacre, and that just fucking floored me.
That's amazing. I mean, he deserves it. I mean, he was amazing. Him in the restaurant, like spitting in his food, it's just like hilarious, and asking the waitress for her number. He's just like, "Oh, fuck you, bitch." He's so funny. I mean, out of all the cast, I mean, he's my favorite. From the movie. But you had Ken Foree, David Naughton, the girl from Evil Dead. I forget her name. I'm not a big Evil Dead fan.
Ellen. Well, actually, all three women from Evil Dead are in it. You have Ellen Sandweiss, Betsy Baker, and Teresa Tilly. Teresa Tilly is the one who plays the waitress who gives Gunnar the food.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Teresa is the one he hits on.
Oh,
not too many people realize that.
Yeah, I didn't notice it, but I get shit all the time because I'm not a big fan of Evil Dead. I appreciate it, but I'm just not.
You don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to jump back a little bit, because you mentioned Worcester, and like Worcester's like 30 minutes from me. Have you ever went to the Rock and Shock convention back in the day?
No, that's a really funny that you asked that. Nobody ever invites me to horror conventions. I never get asked. Ever.
That sucks.
Which is really strange. Considering that I do have a few films that well, at least Malevolence is kind of considered iconic, and now, like you say, Brutal Massacre. I mean, it's funny too because Brutal Massacre on streaming makes no money. Like, nobody watches that movie, and
really?
Yeah, it absolutely makes it. I've never made a dime off that film. It was a complete and utter disaster at the box office and on video. It did absolutely no money. Yet when I do go, I used to go to a lot of the, like, let's say Fangoria conventions when they had them. And they would introduce me, and they'd be like, the director of Malevolence, and I'd hear like crickets, and they'd be like, and Brutal Massacre, and the crowd would go crazy, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, the crowd loves this movie, but yet it doesn't get watched. So it's so nice to hear you guys appreciate that film, because for me, financially it was a total disaster. But it's great to have something that people really really dig and appreciate.
Well, now, I don't know this for sure, but online it says the budget for the movie was $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
What a cast for $400,000! I don't think you could do that nowadays. Like, it'd be impossible.
Yeah, I give credit to a guy named Tom Bambard for that. So when Malevolence came out, it came out through Anchor Bay, and it ended up being like their biggest film of all time. And me and Tom kind of hit it off and became friends. And when I went to make Brutal, I was doing it on my own. And I said, would you want to come work with me and help me produce this film? And so he actually left Anchor Bay to come work for me. And it was through a lot of his personal connections that we're able to get people like Mick Garris. Obviously it was my connection to, I knew Gunnar. We were already friends at that point, and I was already really good friends with Brian O'Halloran. So I brought them to the table, and Tom was able to convince Ken Faree. He brought on David Naughton. He brought on Mick Garris. Who else? He brought, Tony Timpone from Fango came on board, and Ken, and all the ladies of the Evil Dead, because he's obviously really good friends. Being from Michigan, where that film was made, he's very good friends with them. And Evil Dead was such a huge film for, and still is, for Anchor Bay. So he gets a lot of credit for that. But it was such a fun shoot. That was the only shoot I ever did where I just actually gained weight. Like, I actually had fun making that movie. Even though most of that film was shot in Pennsylvania in February to try and save money, and we got hit with a 2-week spell where it was literally 0 degrees or colder. We would go out in the truck every morning at 6 a.m. and I'd look up at this. There's this bridge that crosses over the river where the Bethlehem Steel is, which is near where we shot it. And there's like a little time and temperature, and every morning it would say 4 degrees, 5 degrees, and everybody would just groan, be like, "Fuck, not again."
Wow, that sucks, dude.
Yeah, but we didn't care. I lost feeling in my foot like permanently, but we didn't care. We were just having so much fucking fun making that movie. So that's the consolation prize. It's like one of my best memories.
You shot all your movies in Pennsylvania, right?
My first 4 films, yeah. I shot Malevolence on Long Island, and then we lost the location, and somehow I ended up in Lehigh Valley looking for locations, and I found it. I found what I was looking for, and then I ended up shooting there for a couple of weeks to finish the film. And while I was here, when I was in Pennsylvania, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, everything's cheaper here. We're still the same distance from the city as I was out in Long Island, still 90 minutes. But everybody here is cooler. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make movies here. So I just made that decision on that film that I was just going to keep coming back. And I'm so glad I did, because I made so many great friends out there. And, it's just been a great experience. Everybody on Long Island, you go to use a location and everyone's like, where are your permits and what are you going to do? And everybody's just being a dick. And it's like, I got to Pennsylvania and everyone's like, yeah, whatever you want to do, we're there to help you 100%. So it's like 2 totally different worlds. And I'm from Long Island, so I feel totally comfortable bashing the people here that I live with. We're not a friendly bunch. I don't know why. It's just that way. But so, when I want to feel good, I cross over to Pennsylvania, hang out with my friends, and it's definitely a great place to make a movie.
That's amazing.
I know Nick's itching to get a question in, but just one more thing.
Yeah.
Do you think now, like, what are we in 2026? Do you think films are like too revealed now compared to like back in the early 2000s or like mid 90s? I think they give too much shit away that like ruins. I don't know if it would ruin filmmaking, but it ruins film.
It's a really good point to bring up, because I think curiosity is kind of dead now, and I think that was one of the things that really made you look forward to stuff. Is like you'd hear about a movie or you'd hear about the premise of a movie and you couldn't wait to see what it was all about. And that was the joy, even like waiting in line to get your ticket. There was that anticipation. And in today's world, there's no anticipation anymore, because
nothing.
Everyone's like, I don't really get into or appreciate the movies I watched today. It's like, because you don't really earn that appreciation, because the way we appreciated things back in the day is they were withheld from us. So you had to wait. Even when you watched a TV show, right? And then like at the end of the show, it's like, shit, now I got to wait a week to see it again. Yeah. And there was that anticipation, and it's the anticipation that builds up that, when it pays off, it's like, oh, it feels that much better. And now everything is instantaneous. You hear a song on the radio, I instantly have it on my phone. Like in my day, it's like I heard a song on the radio, I had to ride my bike to 4 different, stores before I found it, and then when you find it, it's like, oh, I got it, and you're excited. All that excitement is gone now, because everything's instantaneous, everything's instant gratification. And it's the same with movies. Before you even go to see the movie, not only do you know the entire premise, you've seen every great scene from the movie in the trailer, you've watched people review the film and say, oh, that movie sucks, and it's like, okay, so I've already got my opinions colored, because like if you were waiting in line in the old days and someone came out and said something about the movie, you'd be like, shut the fuck up, because you don't want to know anything. You go in, cold. Now it's like, I know what everybody thinks about it, including the people that I follow. I know, what it's about. I've seen all the, the trailers, and I've seen all the greatest scenes already. So now it's really just like, a means to an end. It's like now I actually have to sit and watch the movie. So that joy has kind of been deleted. So yeah, I think it's a really good point you're bringing up, is that, the internet is kind of, overexposed everything, and so like things that would last now are just, burned through really quickly.
I remember like in like the end of the 90s, like I'd walk into early 2000s too. I'd walk into Blockbuster or Hollywood Video and I'd go to the horror section and I'm like, I'll pick a movie like totally based off its cover. And I'll know nothing else about the movie. And like I'll watch it and either like I'll really enjoy it or I won't. But now if I see a poster, I'm like, I know the cast, I know the director, I know all the director's history, his budget, I know everything about it, and you're right, it kind of kills it.
Yeah, and what's the thing when you went to Blockbuster and they didn't have the movie you were looking for, right? And you're like, oh, now I want it even more, right? Like I used to be, like I said, I used to be in the video game business back when I was younger. And one of the things that Nintendo was a master at is they would come out with these new systems, and then when they were released, they'd only release a couple of them, so nobody could get them. So everybody go crazy because they're like, oh, I want to get the system, and nobody has them. And they build up this insane, like frothy desire for this product that nobody even knew what it was or how great it was. They didn't even have any games for it yet, but they had to have it because they couldn't find it, and that anticipatory stuff is kind of lost today. Yeah, for sure. And you can't get it back though. The internet's eliminated it. You don't even go to the store anymore. You just order it on Amazon.
Forever, it's gone. Like you'll never get that back. You're right.
Yeah. I watched the video. They don't understand it. You can't explain it to them.
Right. I watched a video talking about video games. I watched a video like the other day. It was like from like 2000 or whatever it was, and it was everybody at GameStop for the PlayStation 2 drop. And they're like, oh, dude, the graphics on this is fucking life-changing. It's like a little pic. It's fucking, like, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, everybody's there. It's like midnight, and there's like a line around the goddamn building. Yeah. Nothing now. Like, I pre-ordered my fucking PS6 fucking 2 months ago. I'll be here in like the day it comes out. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Lame, dude.
Same with video games. You just download them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I just download my shit now. I don't even buy it anymore. Yeah.
Talking about video games, staying on that topic for a sec, what totally fucked me up, because I got a PS5 and I just realized there's just digital consoles. So like there's no physical game. Everything's digital. You buy it all online, which I'm like, what is that? When did that happen? Like that snuck up on me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of retro gaming. I grew up in the 80s, so like for me, like I'm a huge fan of like the consoles that that predate all the digital stuff. Mm-hmm. But I mean, not that I don't play like today. Like I love the shit that's coming out now just as much as everybody else. But I don't get that same joy as I do. Like I'll play something even like Asteroids or Pac-Man, and I can the replay value on those games is still unbeatable. Like I could play those forever. I'll never get bored of it.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about Mario Brothers. I mean, any Mario Brothers from Game Boy to original Nintendo, I can play it all day.
Yeah. It's it's the replay value. It's just they were fun games.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Go ahead, Nick. My bad, buddy.
No worries. Like you were saying earlier about Spinal Tap being somewhat an inspiration for Brutal Massacre. I saw Brutal Massacre first back in 2007 when I was still in high school. And maybe 4 or 5 years later, I saw Spinal Tap. And I'm kind of like watching it. I'm looking at Rob Reiner, connecting it to when I saw Brutal Massacre. Then looking at the band, John Guest and them. Then imagining them being a cast and crew, and I'm thinking this is somewhat similar. Instead of it being like an outdated rock band, it was like the opposite of it being like a cast and crew with a filmmaker trying to get his groove back.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a huge influence on the film. I mean, I grew up loving that movie. Me and my friends, we quoted it ad nauseum, in high school. So. Big fan of that type of humor, Christopher Guest. I always wanted to see what he would think of that film if he ever got his hands on it. I always wanted him to watch Massacre. But yeah. I mean, and there's like a little homage in there where Harry's talking about how on every one of his movies somebody dies. So it's kind of like the drummer dying in Spinal Tap.
Yep.
But sadly, someone did die on Malevolence. So it's crazy, and someone died on Malevolence 3. So life imitates art, and vice versa. So it's been really strange how some of my films have been kind of cursed, but it is what it is. But yeah, definitely a lot of influence from that, cross-pollinating each other.
So that must be challenging.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, man.
No, have you seen the new Spinal Tap at all?
I watched about 15 minutes of it.
Because I saw it once and I have to go back and watch it again. But there was a scene where they mentioned from back then till now, there was like a high body count of drummers they now had compared to back then, like you were just saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they have like the bad luck with a drummer.
Yeah, I mean, I watched 15 minutes of it. I didn't really dig it too much.
Yeah.
I actually really liked his movie A Mighty Wind. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That movie, it was hilarious. And that I like that type of humor is funny when they don't point out the joke. When it lets you figure out the joke and they're not like, hey, you should be laughing now. And that's what I felt. What I didn't like about the new Spinal Tap is it's almost like you're waiting for the canned laughter, from like a Seinfeld episode. Like it's just too set up. Whereas the original film, with lines where he says things like, they were still booing us when we got on stage and they left. Like it's stuff like that where you don't laugh right away, and then you think about it, and you're like, oh my god, that's fucking hilarious.
I think for years they didn't own the rights to the movie, so that's why it took this whole time to make a sequel. And I kind of think it kind of like, if they had the rights back then, maybe should have done at least 20, 30 years ago.
Well, it's actually, believe it or not, it's actually the reverse. It's actually they had the rights, but what they had to do was at certain intervals, they had to make some sort of creative thing with Spinal Tap in order to retain the rights. So if you remember, do you remember that album that they cut back in like the late 90s?
Probably.
So they only did that so that they can continue the holding the right. So yeah, it's weird, but I don't know exactly what part of the copyright alleyway that exists in, but yeah, so that's why they try to bring something out like every 10 years. I don't know if this will probably be the last one though, obviously now that Rob Reiner is gone.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't think they could do it without Reiner.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I think that puts it to bed. But still, some great stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Biz?
So you mentioned that you lost an actor making Malevolence 3. Did that happen after you were done shooting, or did you still need like scenes with that actor? I believe it was the guy that played the detective, right?
Yeah, no, it happened during shooting. He killed himself, and we only had about 75% of the movie done. And sadly, he did it before we filmed any of the climactic scenes. So I basically had to rewrite the entire movie, and by then we were pretty much out of money. So Malevolence 3 is only a shell of what it was originally supposed to be. It was actually a really cool buddy cop kind of thing. Had some humor in it. There was just so much more. Like the ending of the movie is pathetic compared to what it was supposed to be. But at that point, Jay Cohen, who played Martin in the film, him and I were basically the crew. It was just made with paper clips and rubber bands. Just him and I and a camera. And the cast was gracious enough to come back and work with us. Everybody was carrying lights. But I'm proud of the fact that we got that movie done. But yeah, it definitely is not what was originally intended, and sadly, he took his own life, and he was a really great guy. So it was a really strange experience for all of us because he was really funny and super talented. I think it's one of those examples of somebody who deserved more in life, and the cards just weren't in his favor. Because he was a very, very talented actor who just never found success, and I think it weighed on him a lot.
Wow, that must have been so challenging to, it's almost like, should I give up or rewrite the script and finish the movie somehow? I mean, that's
Yeah, honestly, I did. For about 2 years, we did give up, and then in around 2017, I decided to, pick it back up and finish it. So yeah, but for about 2 years, it was dead in the water.
wow.
So yeah,
Anymore out.
no matter what people say about that movie, nothing can hurt me on that one because I'm just so proud of the fact that we pulled it out and finished it. Like I don't care what anyone says about it.
Yeah.
I love all three of them. I think it's a great trilogy, and it's inspiring because like I would say you're independent, and like just trying to get the movie done. It's a challenge in itself. You gotta be insane to be in the film industry nowadays. But I picked up Malevolence when it first came out. Knew nothing about it, just popped it in, and I was like, this is like Friday the 13th Part 2, but like indie style. I love it, And
Awesome.
same thing with Bereavement. I had no idea it was a sequel to Malevolence until I was like, oh, I know that name, Steve Mann. He definitely did something. And that was before I was really big into finding out who directors are and all that. So watching that at a young age and seeing it was shot in PA. I was from PA. And the town you picked, Minersville, Pennsylvania. Any specific reason for that?
I passed it one day while I was driving, and I said, "That's a cool name." That's about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, just driving by.
Yep.
Yeah, because I'm about like a half hour from there, so like, seeing a movie kind of based in the area I'm familiar with, inspired me. Even at a young age, and along with other movies, other directors, but seeing it could be done in Pennsylvania is, awesome. You don't have to go to Hollywood to make movies, which you don't. I mean, we don't, and it's cool, dude. It's really cool that you have this following, even if you don't know it, and I'm proud. I'm proud of you. Great movie.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'm definitely on the independent side. I've tried both sides, and I've worked for companies, I've worked for studios, and I like it better on this side, and doing all the stuff myself. Like I remember, I won't get into the whole story, but I had a script I wanted to make, and the producers of a very, very, very large horror franchise approached me to do another film, and I turned them down. And then I brought them my script, and they loved it so much that they ended up stealing it and turning it into a TV show. And that experience for me, it was like 2 years of my life that was completely wasted. And it was at that moment I said, I'm just gonna navigate my way through this on my own. I just didn't want to, the studio system for me was just like this cesspool of fucking lunatics. And I just thought, I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being put into a box with restrictions. I'd rather work with, 1/10 the budget, but be able to call all the shots. So that's what I do. And even now, when I distribute films, like I have my own distribution company that I've built. I have an output deal, for theatrical. I have my own output for DVD and Blu-ray and for home video, and streaming. So I do everything through my company now, and and we retain 100% of ownership across the board. So yeah, I'm very proud of how that's all come about because we're completely self-contained now. If I want to make a movie, I raise the money, I shoot the movie, I edit the movie, and then we distribute the film. So and that's a lot of the time. Especially with independent films, you can only take it to a certain point, and then you get to that point and you have to hand it off to a company. And, depending on who you hand it off to, it could be great or it could be a disaster. But, most of the time, financially, it's not good for the independent person, the filmmaker, because they don't know the ins and outs of how money is made and where it comes from. And so they get ripped off. But I've actually, on that note, I've actually been working for the last year on something that I feel has been lacking in this industry, and that is the ability for, not just the larger companies, but independent companies, independent filmmakers to be able to sell their films overseas. There really isn't any kind of a conduit for that. So I've actually built something. It's taken me about a year and a lot of money, but I'm going to be launching it this year called the Film Market. and it's going to be a site where anybody can put their stuff online and sell it direct to foreign buyers all around the world. And you ask any independent filmmaker, they'll say, yeah, I licensed my film here in the United States to some company, but when you ask them about foreign sales, they look at you like a deer in headlights. They have no idea they can sell their film in Japan, in Germany. In fact, one of my biggest territories is Germany, especially Bereavement. Bereavement was a huge hit there. But a lot of independents, they just don't really even consider that market because they think, well, I got to get an agent and sales agent, and I got to do this, I got to do that. So this site will allow them to bypass all of that and be able to market their films worldwide. So I'm really looking forward to that getting launched this summer.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That really is awesome.
That is kind of sick. So, what is maybe some of your favorite newer horror films, if there is any?
Favorite newer horror films. Let me think about that.
I know it's very fucking tough because there's not a lot of newer horror films that are worth talking about because everything's a fucking remake or something.
Yeah.
There's some gems in there.
Yeah, I mean, I do like a lot of the stuff that James Wan has done. I'm a big fan of a lot of the ghost stories that he's done. I thought they're really well made. I thought that they don't pander to the audience. I think they are genuinely scary and generally like well written. All the stuff he did with Vera Farmiga, I think is great. The Conjuring world, Insidious. So I would say that's probably, of all the newer stuff, that's the stuff that, like, if I was to be involved with it, I want to be involved with one of those. But as far as like, I am disappointed in the the bare knuckles indie scene. Like, I haven't really seen anything recently that really made me say, oh wow, that's fantastic. Which is a shame, because it's so wide open. Right now, I feel like there's a real opening for some great horror to come through. Like, you had the Terrifier franchise that is just like some kind of a miracle. What happened with that movie, and that whole series. So I think that's great. I mean, that for me, like, I'm not in that camp anymore as far as like the type of film that is. I'm at this stage of my career, I'm much more interested now in like human stories, and human interaction. So that's kind of the direction I'm going. You can get a gist of that if you watch this new film I made called The Ruse, which is sort of a horror film, but it's really more of a human drama story. And that's really kind of where my sensibility is now. So that's where I'm, a lot of my stuff is migrating towards. And if you go to my website, menafilms.org, you'll see like some of my other stuff that's coming out. Like, we have a new film called The Stranger Comes Along, which is also, it's like a horror film, but it's a human centered type story. So that's kind of where my head is at right now. It's very easy to just put a knife in somebody's hand and unleash them, and like, okay, there's 90 minutes. I mean, and I still love that shit. Like, it's great, but it's very like, low common denominator. It's like easy. The hard stuff is human interaction, human emotion, being able to convey that on camera and actually get it to be where it's interesting, that people want to watch. Like, that's a true achievement. And that's kind of what I'm going for now. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that's kind of my goal now. It's not how many people I can kill on camera, but it's, can I help you make a connection with, another human being on the screen?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Nick?
Like you were saying about your recent movie that you're coming out with the Strangers title in it, I was actually reading about that earlier. Is that going to have like a limit release or something, or kind of like go to like a streaming type thing?
Well, when I make films, I always have like the highest hopes for them. So I would love for it to be like a wide release. But it really comes down to, there's a lot of things in a film that have to go your way, right? Like, you can have all the best intentions, and you can have a great script, and you can hire great actors, but if they don't gel, or if one of the actors doesn't really pull it off, or whatever, you never know how things are going to go, and things can always go sideways. But obviously, we'd love for it to be as big as possible. Like with The Ruse, we were able to get that into 450 screens nationwide, which for a film that size was pretty impressive. I've gotten a lot of phone calls asking how the hell we did it. So something along those lines I would be very happy with. But again, it really just depends on, you know, how things come together. You know, if they come together really well, we get the right actor, then, you know, the sky's the limit.
Because I remember when A Violent Nature came out, I think that had a small release, and I think around here it had like maybe 2 or 3 showings in only a matter of like just like 2 days in a row. So I
Yeah.
kind of like had to scramble to go see it. And same thing for like the first Terrifier movie. That was kind of like I think shown in like one location, and it had like only one showtime, and I think it was like at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. So I always kind of like if I see a movie advertised that has like a limited release, I kind of always try to rush out to see it as possible as I can.
Oh, that's great. Now, we need more people like you out there that continue to go
Thank
and
you.
see movies in the movie theater. Yeah, I mean, it's a wide open thing with that because, you know, with those types of horror films, because films like, you know, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th, like they set this precedent where, you know, we know we're entertained by that stuff, and we're always hoping to get that same feeling every time, like especially a slasher film like that comes out. You're always hoping, like, will it be like, you know, like it was when I first saw Halloween? You know, you're always hoping for that excitement, and I think that's why people will continue to go to those films, because, you know, they're hoping that they're going to recapture that moment, you know, that feeling they got when they first started watching those movies, because they're addicted.
Because I try to go to the movies at least once a week, because I know a lot of people rather wait till it goes on streaming and everything. But I've always been a fan of the going to the movie theaters and having that experience, sitting in the audience, looking it on the big screen. I'd rather have that than just stay at my house and watch it on a normal size TV.
Yeah, no, it's always more fun. There's actually, where I live, there's a place called Port Jeff Cinemas, which is a really tiny 5 theater cinema, but it's right out of the 1980s. Like in the 80s, we used to have theaters. Like, I don't know how old you guys are, but we used to have theaters like in strip malls. You know, that would have like 1 or 2 screens, and you go in, and it was like this little shoebox. But for me, like those memories are precious for me, because that reminds me of what it was like when I was a kid going to see films. You know, I saw Star Wars in this tiny little shoebox of a theater. But when I go there, it reminds me of that. You know, there's only like, you know, 30 or 40 seats per screen, but the popcorn's amazing. So I try to go there as often as I can. You know, I mean, if it's a really big film, I'll probably go to like the larger theater for the better sound system. For most of the stuff, I go right there, and it's not far from my house, like 5 minutes away.
So I remember last night, Zombie, we were talking about when we drove by the old Apple Valley Cinema.
Yeah.
I think that had like less than not even 7 or 8 theaters in there. And
Yeah.
that was kind of like always packed whenever people went, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And Nick, where are you from?
I'm from Providence, Rhode Island.
Do they have any drive-ins in Providence?
Yes,
Smithfield.
Smithfield. Yeah, Smithfield.
Yeah,
They
I know
opened-
they still have Ziegler's in PA, right, Drew?
Yeah. The big one that we have is Mahoning Valley.
Yeah, Mahoning.
Mahoning, yeah.
They're always like, yeah, their season just started, and every weekend is just jam packed, and people come from all over the country. This weekend they did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre original and remake, and then the Evil Dead original and remake. And tonight, I'm missing it just for you, Steven. Floyd the Wall. You know, Pink Floyd The Wall is playing.
Oh, no way. That's
in
great.
35, which is, I mean, I'm missing it, but they'll bring it back, I'm sure. But yeah, Mahoning's awesome. The people there are awesome. The food's great, and it's just a cool experience. You could stay overnight, get hammered with your friends watching 35 millimeter. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, I actually reached out to them. I have a 35 millimeter print of Malevolence still in my basement. I reached out to them to see if they want to do a screening, but I never heard back from them. But I would love to do that there, and I still have that print, still in pristine condition.
That's awesome. So you shot the first one in 35. Was the second one in 35 too, or do you switch?
Yeah, Bereavement was also 35. I didn't do digital. My first Malevolence 3 was my first digital film.
No way. Was it because films, more? I would say it's harder to edit and do all the printing. Do you prefer film, or do you?
No, fuck film. I am not a film snob at all. I mean, for me, digital. Once the Alexa camera came out in 2010, and I saw the quality shift, that it was easily as good as film, I jumped ship immediately, because shooting on film was a nightmare, because you have to have a camera loader. You had to have someone to transport the film at the end of the day to, let's say Technicolor or DuArt, wherever you're having it processed. Then they would have to do a telecine, where they would, transfer it onto a tape that you would then ingest, like a beta tape, and then you'd have to sync the sound as well, and then you'd have to bring it to a negative cutter, and then they'd have to cut it, and then they'd have to do originally like a one light, and then they do like a full colorization of it, and and then you'd have to transfer it through a DI back into digital. A fucking nightmare, and it would cost so much money, that entire process. And now, like, all that stress, all that financial disaster, is all gone. Now you can just take out a little thumb drive and stick it into your computer, and you're done. Like, why would anyone want to go back to shooting film, unless you're a complete lunatic snob who's like, oh, film is so much better? Fuck you. It's exactly the same. I will show you two side by side. You'll never know the difference. I remember one of the most exciting moments of my fucking life. I was in DuArt, and we were doing a mix of the sound for Malevolence, and this guy who worked there had these dreadlocks down to his ass, like this really cool dude comes up to me. He's like, yo, Mena, you want to see something cool? He brings me into another screening room, and he just shows me this video of a beach, just waves on a beach. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, look at it. And I'm like, I'm looking at it. What? And he's like, that's shot on the Panasonic DV100. It's a freaking mini DV tape transferred to film. And I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, yeah. He's like, they were able to perfect 24p, which gives you that true film look. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, wow, this is fucking amazing. And I was so excited. Now it's like, kids have 4K in their phones, but back then, just the idea that you could shoot something on digital and not have to go through the process of cutting negative was, like, to me, was like the most exciting thing ever. But it took another 10 years before I actually took the leap, because even in like 2007, 2008, unless you had like something like the Genesis, like this really, really expensive camera, and even then it wasn't quite film quality. Like, I still look at the stuff that George Lucas did with Star Wars, and it's like, it's not quite there. It still looks a little too digital for me. But once the Alexa came out, I was like, all right, that's it. And then I remember the Blackmagic Pocket came out, which is what we used to shoot Malevolence 3. $1,000 camera. And the first thing they said when I brought those files into DuArt, they said, was this shot on film? I'm like, dude, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm like, this is shot digital on a thumb drive. I have it on a little hard drive, at my house. And so that was kind of life changing for me. But yeah, I would never go back to film. Film sucks. Anyone who tells you different, never shot on film.
That's amazing. So, what's your favorite camera to shoot on nowadays? I mean, obviously the Ari would.
Well, we shot the Ruse on the Ari Mini, and it's a great camera. It's a little, the thing with me with that camera, we actually shot with two cameras. We shot with that camera, and then I shot two scenes with the Blackmagic Ursa. And for me, they're very comparable cameras, except for one thing. What's great about the Alexa is when you go to the color grade, it's so easy. It's just so smooth and easy. It's just grading that footage. It was an absolute pleasure. Whereas with any other camera I've used, whether it's Sony, Blackmagic, there's always a learning curve. There's always a lot more work involved to get it to look as good. So I think that's for me anyway, that's the allure of the Alexa models, and the Ari color science is just so easy to work with.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, Drew loves Sony.
Yeah, I'm a big Sony guy. Yep. I love Sony. I don't think it gets better than Venice. I mean, the Ari too, but I mean, I would say I'll pick the Venice any day.
What did we shoot Rotten Summer on?
FS7.
FS7. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, today it's like, you know, pretty much every camera is fabulous. I mean, you know, that whole argument is kind of over now. I mean, you know, even your most basic cameras, even the freaking iPhone.
Yeah.
I've seen stuff shot on the iPhone that looks like the Alexa. I mean, it's amazing. So there's absolutely, like, the whole, you know, camera versus camera argument is so dead now. I mean, every camera out there now, if it's been released in the last decade, is amazing. If in the right hands, as long as it's in the right hands.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's all about the lighting anyway. You know, I could give you an Alexa, but if you don't know how to light the fucking shot, it's still gonna look like shit.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta know what you're doing. It's all about the light.
Everybody loved the red and shit, and they would, you know, invest all their money in the red and have no lighting, and it's like, dude, it looks like shit, dude. You have to have some kind of, you know, cinematography, you know, to your projects. I mean, God love the red. I mean, I've seen some really good stuff shot on the red, but like you said, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the camera anymore. I mean,
yeah, I actually had a funny experience. I had a friend who was shooting a movie on the red, independent shoot, and I went there with my Blackmagic. And while they were shooting, I noticed what they had done an error in lighting. And so what I did was I shot the same scene while they were shooting it, just, you know, on my own from the right side, the correct side. And when they were looking at footage, I lent them the footage I shot, and they were like, "Your footage looks so much better than what we got, but you were there the same day. Like, I don't understand why yours looked better." I'm like, because you were shooting on the wrong side. You had the light on their face. You need to have the light behind their head. And so I was explaining to them just basic cinematography. And I guess, you know, once they saw the two, they saw what they did wrong. But it's all about, you know, who's the gaffer, who's the DP, who's lighting it, you know, how they're staging it. That's really what makes, you know, you can shoot it with an iPhone now. It won't matter. You can get great footage as long as you just know what you're doing. And that's how you can easily tell the posers from, like, the real filmmakers.
That's awesome.
So we like to end the shows on, like, asking our guests if you have any inspiring words to tell future filmmakers. Yeah, I stole that from you, fucker.
I usually have that, you know, but I know this is going to be a good one from Steve.
Well, inspiring, aside from, you know, stay in school and become a lawyer, I would say, you know, this is, in a way, this is the worst time to be a filmmaker and the best, because there's absolutely no limitation now at all. Anybody can be a filmmaker, anybody can be a director, anybody can get this done with minimal effort and minimal cost. So the playing field has been completely leveled. So there's no excuse not to do it. The story is absolutely the king, right? If you've got a great story, you can shoot it, you know, with a black and white camera. People will watch it. Just look at how Clerks is still one of the most popular films ever made. Looks like ass, but it's still one of the funniest, you know, best films, you know, indie films. And so it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter so much. It's really about the story. So if you're an up and coming filmmaker, if you focus on your script more than anything else, just focus on the script. Like, let everybody else worry about the cameras and this and that. Just focus on your story. And the more time and effort you put into that, the better your chance for success. Because at the end of the day, if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I loved your film, like the lighting was great," then they weren't watching your movie. You know, you want them to come up to you and say, "Oh, I loved your film. That story really touched my heart." That, you know, if you can do that, then you'll continue working and you'll have a career.
That's awesome. Well, Stevan Mena, if anyone wants to watch his movies, they're on Tubi. The Malevolence trilogy, Brutal Massacre. If you haven't seen them, you're in for a fucking wild ride. I would suggest, you know, any filmmaker watch Brutal Massacre, because it's a fucking Bible. So, Stevan fucking Mena, thank you for joining us, and all our fans, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.